puppies and kittens. Welcome to another edition of Blasphemers Bible, where we are today inexplicably Lilithless. Don't know what happened there. Anyway,
And it's also very strange that the moment you started talking on stream, your bird decided to speak up too.
now that's kind of common and
Really great timing.
enormously frustrating. So I've got an opening commentary on 49 and why we stopped at 49 and not continue to 50.
Because Lawrence.
Yeah, because me. But but we'll be getting into quite a few things today. We are now well into the well, maybe not well into, but we're in the second Psalter still, and we're also into what is often called the Eloistic Psalter. So I think I mentioned this before, but a lot of these psalms, we're gonna find parallels between this stuff and then other psalms. And the biggest difference between those parallels would be that the Eloistic Psalter uses the name Elohim a lot more. And before the show, we were talking about it before. We're going to see, for example, in Psalm 53, which is almost a carbon copy of Psalm 14. That one uses Elohim in some places where Psalm 14 used Yahweh. And we're going to see that phenomenon a lot up until like Psalm 80 something.
Okay. All right, then shall I begin?
Yeah, I guess you can.
All right. The folly of trust in riches. To the leader, period, of the Korahites, period, a psalm.
Wait, hold on. Before we actually start reading it, Arden, are you using a different mic?
Yeah, you're on the wrong mic, Arden.
Am I?
Yeah.
All right, I just hooked up a new monitor, so that was a problem. So all my lighting is wrong. Everything's got to be adjusted.
Yeah, you do look ominous.
Yeah. I'm gonna have to do a lot of tweaks and adjustments.
It's like when you go into one of those bathrooms at a club and they have all that lighting where you see like every injury you've ever had since childhood.
I always wonder why it is that when I walk into places like that a little bit drunk, why do I look so hideous? Okay, so I'm looking for my microphone. Ooh, yeah, that's definitely not the right mic.
Yeah, well, you find that with your new monitor, I guess your face was lit up in such a way that I was like, it reminds me of one of those bathrooms where I look in listen, it's when I look in the mirror and I'm like, wow, I look a lot like Arn.
Oh crap, I look so bad. I look like Arn. All right, is the mic better because it was switched?
Yes.
All right. Okay, so to the leader, period, of the Korahites, period, a psalm, period. So, hear this, all you peoples, because that's the way you say that too. Hear this, all you peoples. Give ear, all inhabitants of the world, both low and high, rich and poor together. My mouth shall speak wisdom. My mouth shall speak wisdom. The meditation of my heart shall be understanding. I will incline my ear to a proverb. I will solve my riddle to the music of the harp. Why should I fear in times of trouble when the iniquity of my persecutors surrounds me? Those who trust in their wealth and boast in the abundance of their riches? Truly, no ransom avails for one's life. There is no price one can give to God for it, for the ransom of life is costly and can never suffice, that one should live on forever and never see the pit. When we look at the wise, they die. Fool and dolt perish together. They leave their wealth to others, their graves, their homes forever, their dwelling places to all generations. Though they named lands their own, mortals cannot abide in their pomp. They are like the animals that perish. Such is the fate of the foolhardy, the end of those who are pleased with their lot. Selah. Like sheep, they are appointed for Sheol. Death shall be their shepherd. Straight to the grave they descend, and from their and their form shall waste away. Sheol shall be their home. But God will ransom my soul from the power of Sheol, for he will receive me. Selah. Do not be afraid when some become rich, when the wealth of their houses increase. For when they die, they will carry nothing away. Their wealth will not go down after them, though in their lifetime they count themselves happy. For you are praised when you do well for yourself. They will go into the company of their ancestors, who will never again see the light. Mortals cannot abide in their pomp. They are like the animals that perish. So this was clearly written by a different person than who wrote a lot of these others, because the style is very different. And I also notice how this is more song-like with
Yeah,
repeated lines.
it's more wisdom, like I would say. It is generally regarded as wisdom psalm, which has a lot of common characteristics with wisdom literature like Proverbs, Job, Ecclesiastes.
Yeah, it certainly has a lot of that. But the thing is, Arn, good on you for pointing that out. The fact that this is a lot, the style is very different, and the theme is different than a lot of other psalms too. In fact, it starts out like, because usually these psalms, they address Israel, usually, but this one is addressed to all people instead of just one nation. And then it says that it's concerning an enigma or a riddle, depending on the translation. But the riddle or enigma, however, it's translated, refers to death, which is the whole thing, right? Because, like, for example, in verse 7, there's no amount of anything, no sacrifice, no amount of money that can be given to God to elude death. But then, to me, the first thing that comes to mind is the ascensions that we've had so far. Only a couple of them, but they're still there. And then in verse 9, all people will eventually go down to the pit, to Shahat, and that's another common word for the grave, and is usually synonymous with Sheol, which is why Sheol pops up so much here. But the psalmist himself, he's like, listen, even though it's inevitable that we all go down to Sheol, like, my soul will be saved from it. And it's probably referencing that eschatological kingdom of God, right? There's new heaven and new earth that's going to be in the end times. Now, what I found kind of neat as well, in verses 16 and 17. Now, they, like, the whole psalm is pretty much like, these people care about their current lot in life, like the stuff they've received here, and they have put their trust in that stuff, and then they pass down their wealth. But one of the polemics that's used here is that, like, they can't carry their wealth to the afterlife. But of course, the Egyptians, for example, believed that your wealth did follow you into death. So I don't think there's enough to say this is like a direct polemic against the Egyptians or anything, but it's certainly polemical against the idea in general, because, like, the Egyptians, they were, if you were wealthy, you were usually buried with a lot of your things, so you could have them in the afterlife. That's how they thought about that. So while I don't think it's a direct attack on Egyptian beliefs, it could be pointing towards the same idea.
Lilith, there you are.
Hi,
Hello.
hi, so sorry. I literally woke up at exactly 9. I don't, yeah. So
No worries.
I
Right,
rolled
alright.
out of bed, grabbed whatever shirt came quickest off the hanger, and then here I am. Behold.
You could have shown up in your jammies.
Sorry?
You could have shown up in your jammies.
Well, yeah. I mean, I mostly am, and as you can see, yeah. I basically just rolled out of bed, so I'm gonna run and grab coffee at some point.
Right. Well, you do that. Happy to have you back.
Love you. Thank you. Okay.
All right, Lawrence, did you have anything more to say about this?
No, not right now.
This is one of only few places in the whole Hebrew Bible that really mentions the idea of like a soul like existing after death in a sense. Like it's one of the few things that like actually talk about like what happens after you die.
Yeah. And it's only that one line, really.
Yeah,
and it could be understood in like multiple ways. I mean, even like Jewish traditional commentaries, I don't know if they're divided on it, but there's at least two opinions. One is that Sheol could mean grave, but in this example, it's referring to like a type of like hell or place where people who are materialistic, evil, whatever, go to. And because I am not like that, the psalmist, God will save me and bring me closer to him. And another way of reading it is more literal, that God will save me from death and that he will take me while I am still alive.
Yeah, that's something I've never understood. The Jewish perspective on the afterlife pre-Jesus.
Yeah, it's
because
very,
Christianity seems to have impacted Judaism in a way that shouldn't have been expected, I don't think. I mean, where people like seem to forget the way they used to believe. You know, because like when Adam Sandler is Jewish, I would have expected that he would stay true to his religion. But when he makes a movie about the afterlife, he has Satan in hell torturing Hitler, right? So I'm confused at that.
Well, I mean, to be fair, that's a very Adam Sandler thing to do. But
yeah, I mean, I don't know how religious, like Jewish, like study he's done. Like,
well, and he's making a satire. Like he's just fucking with the whole concept. So he's going to go with the most popular and cartoonish concept. Christian hell can be very ridiculous.
Is also Jewish by he's Jewish by birth, but he also did a skit where he's like a demon in hell, and he's like, even though one of the lines, sorry,
he says, I am the devil, but you can call me Toby.
Yeah. He's like, Christians, I'm afraid the Jews are right.
So like the idea of hell being what it is today, that's based off of thousands of years of development, basically. Like a lot of our imagery of hell comes from like Dante especially, but then before that, there are some
who ripped it from the Apocalypse of Peter.
Yeah, Apocalypse of Peter. Yep.
And Jesus didn't exist in a vacuum. Like a lot of his ideas that we consider like not unique to him, but like he brought them to the forefront. He was repeating things that Jewish thinkers were saying already.
Pharisees, ironically.
Yeah.
And yes, by the time the Gospels got around enough to being written, by the time the Gospels got around to being written, the Pharisees were one of the only groups left because they didn't try and start a rebellion. So they badmouthed them as the evil against Christianity or whatever, and they were the ones opposing Christ, when actually most of the best ideas that were put in the mouth of Christ stolen from Pharisees.
Yeah, especially Hillel.
Unless Hillel the elder with the don't
do unto others that you don't want done to yourself.
Love the Lord your God with all your
that's
heart
the
and soul, mind,
like that's the first
and all
rule,
else is
and
commentary.
exactly.
And the other is love your neighbor as yourself, and then all else is commentary. But there were other things too that I was really surprised. The Sabbath is made for man and not man for the Sabbath. Like pull it, if a sheep fell in a well on the Sabbath, of course you would fucking pull it up. Like, priorities and lighten the fuck up and balance. A lot of that shit. Good shit. Like, don't let your religion be ridiculous.
So what I was understanding was that the Greek or the Hebrew concept of Sheol is parallel, maybe with a common basis for like the Greek Hades, so that you have one and only one destination for all the dead. It's in the ground, and people go there to be dead. So they're
kind of like the fields
for
of
the most part.
asphodel.
Yeah, but
so they're not doing a lot. They're not sitting around thinking about what to do. They're dead.
Yeah, but there was, of course, some development over time, even within that idea. So I think in First Enoch, Sheol is split into 4 categories too, where there is like one category that is for, essentially for like the patriarchs, I guess, and then I forget a lot of the other the other categories.
Not like the bosom of Abraham, like where they're
all the important guys are like in one place. And
it's
then,
definitely almost like post-biblical, like after the Hebrew Bible was finished being canonized in a sense.
I'd say that
things
some
developed.
I forget the exact timeline of when that section was written, but like it could like maybe it's intertestamental.
And then there's like the Mesopotamian tale that like it was either Ereshkigal or Ninhursag, I'm not sure which, but they go down to hell, and they're like talking with somebody there, so there's not entirely dead. I guess they're just mostly dead.
There's like an attendant, basically.
We have like the story of Saul. Is it? Wait, who is the king that they bring back from the dead? Kind of.
And then you have like Alcestis with the Greek story where Alcestis goes down to hell for like 3 days. And has to be rescued by Hercules.
Orpheus almost gets his wife out, but doesn't because the writer is a dick. And then Hercules goes down and like forcibly drags somebody out because, oh man.
I like how the original myth it's Alcestis, but then Disney made it Megara. Why not? Because this is just a story that's 3,000 years old. Why not fuck with it?
Well, they
really
need to hot chick angle it. I don't know. If you don't have your heterosexual romance, what will the small children latch onto?
So there's some inconsistency there, where people die and they go into the ground and they're just dead, but you can still talk to them if you go into the land of the dead somehow, but they're still kind of mostly dead. Unless you wake one up for a minute and it's in trance. I don't know.
It seems to be a bit like sleep, like it's not very clear, and maybe the souls just kind of wait for the end of all things in a kind of a fugue state. Sometimes, obviously with the underworld, you get your Sisyphus and your, torments for the people who pissed off the gods, or
I'm sure
whatever.
someone's written a book about the development of like the afterlife in
yes, actually there are a few.
religion.
There's one from Alan Siegel called Life After Death, and then Bart Ehrman wrote one. Oh my god, what's it called? I know it's about it's a history of hell. But I have a short video on the history of hell. But I kind of want to.
I should see that. I don't know that I was aware of that.
I want to revisit the subject because I don't think I definitely didn't do well enough. There was a lot of stuff I didn't know about at the time, right?
Yeah.
So like there are like Lilith, you mentioned the Apocalypse of Peter. That is one of the big ones. But there is also there are other apocalypses as well that kind of fed into the same belief to even greater degree. So the I'm forgetting the name of it, but there was another one, which, by the way, we did read those on Friday Apocryphal podcast on my channel.
Behold!
Yeah, behold indeed, motherfuckers. So the history of hell is very, very interesting, because it wasn't really until the Christian period that we saw it being like the kind of place of torture and torment that we do today. But yeah, before that, for the most part, it was just like either like this dreary place where nothing happened, or like a forever sleep, kind of like that.
Did
No
Christianity ever have
dreaming.
this idea of like hell being temporary, or is that it
No,
has to
that's
be?
purgatory.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, like the sort of like
so-
Jewish hell is like maximum of 12 months, and there's like the word they use for hell is Gehinnom, which is named after a real place that was associated with human sacrifice or trash. I don't remember exactly. And heaven on the other hand is called Gan Eden, the Garden of Eden, which is interesting. It's also the word for the end of times, like So it's
So
like,
my-
are you talking about heaven, or are you talking about like the end of the world?
My question was, like, Jesus gets this idea, I think, from Zoroastrianism, because I read something 20 years ago now, from one of the books attributed to Zarathustra, and I don't remember which one it was, and for whatever reason I can't find it now, but I remembered the line very well. It's that the righteous man will, upon his death, ascend into the kingdom of justice and truth, ruled by the wise Lord Ahura Mazda. But the wicked man will, upon his death, descend into the kingdom of the lie, ruled by Ahriman the opposer. Now, this is one of the aspects of Zoroastrianism that did not influence Judaism, but obviously did influence Christianity. So
It
I'm
probably would have
thinking
gone
about
through
how
a thread
is
of
Jesus
Judaism.
the first person to popularize this idea outside of Zoroastrianism? How did he come across this, since he was himself Jewish? Obviously, a bunch of other people were Jewish and also glommed onto that same idea.
Sorry, which idea specifically?
That there's two places to go when you die: the kingdom of justice and
Heaven and
truth,
hell.
or heaven, and the kingdom of the lie, or hell.
Okay, gotcha. I mean, I wouldn't.
I think the Jewish people being in like exile in Babylonia would have picked up ideas from Zoroastrianism. It's even possible that this psalm is kind of talking about something similar, in the sense of, they're going to Sheol and God will redeem my life from the clutches of Sheol. You could almost read into that as there are two places to go to.
Yeah.
You either go and go to sleep until the end of the world in Sheol, or maybe you go straight to God and kind of get absorbed or whatever.
So this seems to be one of those beliefs that arose without being written down into the doctrine. It's like, where Satan is the serpent, or something like that. We have this traditional interpretation that is not actually explicitly spelled out, because it was never originally intended.
Right. And I mean, even the latest book of the Hebrew Bible would have been written, was it like 200 years before Jesus? So there was a point where they just stopped writing this as scripture, and then it was kept more as an oral thing. So we wouldn't necessarily have like a written record of how these ideas developed before and then Jesus. I mean, there are other things that are written that weren't accepted into the Hebrew Bible. For example, the Book of Enoch. That shows that development.
But that did have an impact. That was super popular in different times.
Yeah.
Although I would say that there are some precursors, because like in Greece, for example, like you did have Hades, but then some sect, I guess you could call them, of Greek religion, it's not a monolith, but the Eleusinian Fields, for example, was
Yeah.
almost like a heaven. So
Right.
there were precursors to this.
And I've got some comments I've got to read. Lyra the Free sent 10 RN Raw memberships. Thank you very much. And then Lyra the Free sent 50 RN Raw memberships.
Ooh.
Again, thank you.
Did we get
And
Alira's comment?
And now, yeah, I'm getting that one next. And this is, she offers, what is TRY?
Turkish lira.
Turkish lira. Okay. How do I
Turkish
keep
lira.
forgetting that? All right. So Turkish lira,
Well,
110. It says, here's a commandment I'd be willing to follow. Thou shalt seek what is true, though it humble thee, and thou shalt do what is kind, though the world reward it not. I love that. Lyra, where did you get that? Is that yours? Okay.
I told her I'd make a religion out of that because that's fucking great.
Yeah,
Oh.
that's lovely. I would like that on a t-shirt. Okay, then Shut Up Matt says, panel/Lawrence, can you confirm the Greek Cerberus meant spotty/spotted, so Hades guard dog is called Spot?
That is a possible etymology.
Yeah.
There are a couple other hypothesized ones, like for example, Ker would be there's the goddess of death, Ker, but that's also just a word for like doom or like someone's fate, right? And then I think what was it? Berethru would be like the second part of the word would mean like a pit of some kind. So it could be like, doom
Evil of the pit.
or evil of the pit. I've heard it that way as well. So that's another possible one. So we're not entirely certain on the etymology of that.
But that
I
makes
do love the headcanon that Hades is just, administrating hell and his dog is named Spot and he loves his hot floral goth wife. I love this.
Yeah, for a while, the longest reticulated python in the United States was named Fluffy, and that makes just as much sense as a three-headed dog named Spot.
Apparently, the PIE root Kerberos, meaning spotted, is connected to Sanskrit Sabala, which means spotted, and is also an epithet for the death hounds of Yama, which I think is a Hindu death god or something.
Yeah, I that is perfectly acceptable if you have a three-headed dog because all dogs are puppies and deserve love. And I will cuddle Cerberus and give him scritches because he is a very good boy and he will love it.
Okay.
Yeah, Hindu god of death, justice, and the underworld. Interesting.
All right, and Tomer?
Yes. So the overview is a bit long. It's like a page and a half because I found it to be more a bit interesting. So Psalm 49 has been generally regarded as a wisdom psalm. Craigie notes that the wisdom literature generally falls into two categories, one in which the moral essence of the wisdom tradition is expressed in a didactic form, according to Proverbs, and the other contains works of a more theoretical nature, exploring the difficult intellectual and theological issues raised in moral wisdom, as seen in Job and Ecclesiastes. He writes that Psalms 49 falls into the second category, having some similarity to the themes of the book of Job, particularly where Job raises the empirical problem of the apparent success and prosperity of the wicked and rich in Job 21, 7-15. Likewise, Telian writes that the psalm was written by, quote, a sage of the Jobian school, disciple of Jeremiah and Ezekiel, end quote. Craigie notes that unlike Job, which deals with issues in a context that is primarily literary and theological, this psalm has a more didactic function, but it's not didactic in the conventional sense. Craigie thus writes that an educational setting need not be supposed. He writes that it is possible that the psalm should be set in the context of a counseling situation, quote-unquote. The person with the moral and intellectual dilemma approached a representative of the wisdom tradition and sought a solution. The psalm was the response, but it contained no easy answers, merely setting the appropriate horizons within which the dilemma must be accepted and carried. Klaus writes that the wisdom of Psalms 49 has its roots not in a theoretical act of contemplation, but in the reality of an encounter with God in verse 50, and the event of a disclosure that brings salvation. He writes that Psalms 49 is the result of a response of petition and thanksgiving as determined by wisdom teaching, quote unquote, and that the song belongs among the late Old Testament Psalms and applied to the circle of the poor. Gerstenberger points out Cassetti's opinion that the psalm was composed by a heretic who presented this poem secretly to a circle of liberal colleagues at the temple, though he rejects this theory. He notes the text's high literary artistry, its advanced theological reflection, and its unusual modification and combination of auto-liturgical forms, and the lack of direct prayer language. Still, he writes that the psalm has a community setting based on the subject matter of Psalms 49, suffering under oppression, hope for the poor, its authoritative tone, suggesting divine communication, the intention of giving comfort, and the concern with delivering the message. Citing Van der Ploeg, he writes that the psalm has been composed to be sung by one single cantor in a religious meeting, and to label this psalm as a wisdom psalm would be appropriate only if the communal setting were taken into account, which is not the case here. Gerstenberger takes Psalms 49 to be a synagogal meditation and instruction. Goldingay writes that the psalm's starting point in the way that having resources gives people the means of causing trouble and loss to others, in verse 5, is an issue of recurrent importance in the Psalms, and it opens in a manner that suggests a link with prophecy, in verse 4. He writes that its starting point may indicate that its background lies in an actual experience of trouble. He notes that Golder suggested a political version of this understanding, linking the psalm like other Korahite psalms with the worship of Dan. He writes, however, that if it does not have a background in an actual experience of being under attack, its stance is more that of a psalm of trust than that of a protest psalm. That's it.
Interesting.
All right.
Yes.
So I suppose, unless anyone has something else to say about this, we can hop into Psalm 50.
Yes.
All right. I suppose I can read Psalm 50. A Psalm of Asaph. The Mighty One, God the Lord, speaks and summons the earth from the rising of the sun to its setting. Out of Zion, the perfection of beauty, God shines forth. Our God comes and does not keep silent. Before him is a devouring fire and a mighty tempest all around him. He calls to the heavens above and to the earth that he may judge his people. Gather to me, my faithful ones, who made a covenant with me by sacrifice. The heavens declare his righteousness, for God himself is judge. Selah. Hear, O my people, and I will speak. O Israel, I will testify against you. I am God, your God. Not for your sacrifices do I rebuke you. Your burnt offerings are continually before me. I will not accept a bull from your house or goats from your folds, for every wild animal of the forest is mine, the cattle on 1,000 hills. I know all the birds of the air, and all that moves in the field is mine. If I were hungry, I would not tell you, for the world and all that is in it is mine. Do I eat the flesh of bulls or drink the blood of goats? Offer to God a sacrifice of thanksgiving, and pay your vows to the Most High. Call on me in the day of trouble. I will deliver you, and you shall glorify me. But to the wicked, God says, what right have you to recite my statutes, or take my covenant on your lips? For you hate discipline, and you cast my words behind you. You make friends with a thief when you see one, and you keep company with adulterers. You give your mouth free rein for evil, and your tongue frames deceit. You sit and speak against your kin. You slander your own mother's child. But okay. These things you have done, and I have been silent. You thought that I was one just like yourself, but now I rebuke you and lay the charge before you. Mark this then, you who forget God, or I will tear you apart, and there will be no one to deliver. Those who bring thanksgiving as their sacrifice honor me. To those who go the right way, I will show the salvation of God. So I don't really have too much to say on this, but I'll say a couple things I do have. So God shining forth from Zion. We talked about it before, but it's because it's his home. That's where his seat is. That's where he does stuff from. That's where he looks at the rest of the world from. So yeah, he shines from Zion. In verse 2, yeah, the presence of God comes with fire and storms, which is reminiscent of theophonic language. I think there are a couple theophanies where this stuff, precedes God showing up. And I think, there's Amos 5, Joel 2, a couple others as well. But yeah, fire and storms preceding God. Very common. Now, of course, the sacrifices, they're not for God to eat, since he controls everything. If he wanted to eat, he would. But in this psalm, we have a certain type of offering, just one, a thanksgiving offering. That's the only one that's acceptable. Which means when you give it, you should be giving it with like a clean heart. I think there was another psalm that we went over last week, or maybe it's coming up. I forget which one it is, but it's one where it's like the thanksgiving offering is important, because if you give it and actually mean it, like it can, it'll be effective, but just calling something a thanksgiving offering won't be good enough. So if we're to take it with psalms like that, then we can see why this would be the only effective one. Because
a Thanksgiving offering also seems more like, gratitude is an impulse that arises within the individual. You don't, there are certain sacrifices for, if this occurs, then do this. If this occurs, then do this. On this day of that month, do this. But the Thanksgiving one is more just, I'm happy. It's like, I want you to buy me flowers because you thought of me, not because I told you to.
Right, yeah.
Which, honestly, is a valid complaint for a girlfriend, less so for a god.
Which is why you should buy flowers for everyone, not just people who will appreciate them.
So
'Cause it's
my
not the
unfinished
actual
journey.
flowers. Yeah.
My unfinished journey says hail Aaron and panel and hail Spot.
Yay!
And then Alira the Free sent 50 Aaron Raw gift memberships.
W Alira.
So that give us 110.
Yep.
I think
so.
Yeah.
Oh right, yeah.
Yeah, we need an Alira counter because she's awesome.
Right.
Yeah, I mean there is like, I don't know if this psalm shows it, but there is a difference, I think, between the way Jewish people think about what the meaning of sacrifice in the temple was all about and how Christians seem to see it. Like Christians seem to think that like God demanded blood to forgive the sins, and then he changed the system from animal sacrifice by the blood of Jesus, and now he doesn't need anything else.
Demigod sacrifice. Yeah, it's that's
and like a Jewish perspective is always that I've understood from, like, maybe it's an idea that developed over time, and maybe this psalm is an early version of that, is God doesn't need sacrifices. He doesn't need this to forgive you. He doesn't need the blood or whatever. It's you as a person, as part of your teshuvah, like you're returning to God. Like you have to say, I feel bad about this, I'm not going to do it again. And like the last thing you do is you bring a sacrifice, and it's supposed to be more of a personal thing that you're doing as a symbol of, like, you're spending money on something, you're not gaining anything in return. This is like the last part of you, like you're doing it because you feel bad and you don't want to
you need
you don't wanna
to
do it
yeah
again.
you need to put your money where your mouth is, kind of thing.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah, and that's I get that.
And it's kind of
I
like you have to ask for forgiveness before you even bring a sacrifice. So like the idea that the sacrifice is needed or forgiveness is, I mean, maybe that's how it was originally, but I think the Jewish idea
it's a bit
moved
reductive
away from
and
that.
childish. I get that.
Mm.
Christianity is quite reductive and childish in practice, although there are some they've
Mm.
had their thinkers in the past. They will not again, because blood magic and human sacrifice just cannot take you further than we have gone. It's sort of, Christianity is the religion of love in the same way that Islam is the religion of peace. It sounds great branding, few good ideas, but on the whole, their love is hate and their peace is war. So not so
Yeah.
great. Not so
Yeah,
great.
one of the biggest problems that I've seen with the Jewish idea of sacrifice being like, God doesn't need it, and you can still do everything you need to do without a temple, without sacrifice,
Mhm.
because it wasn't needed in the first place. The problem with that idea is that religious Jews will think that when the Messiah does come in the future, they will rebuild the temple and sacrifices will resume because because it's it's in the Bible says you should bring sacrifices, so we want to be able to do that again in the future.
And this is what comes with being super literal minded. It's about returning to the old, almost childishly literal ritual ways, as opposed to actually growing and transcending and understanding the concept. But yeah, absolutely. As a child, and I have seen it to this day in children's like cartoon explaining the system to children, that blood is like money, spiritual money, and God bought us with his special money of Jesus' blood, was the way, was the Donut Man explained it like that? Like, genuinely, blood is currency to counteract your sins that you're all steeped in, and you have to be covered in it spiritually so that God can look at you without gagging. Really fun thing to explain to a child. Yeah. Also, God loves you more than anyone ever will. He just needs you to look like someone from a horror film, but in a spiritual sense. Yeah, that's not
Yeah, I never
fucked.
understood the expression "covered in the blood of Jesus."
Yeah, you have to think of it as it's genuinely just blood magic. Because the idea that they took from Judaism, rightly or wrongly, is the idea that the blood makes a covering, a spiritual covering, so that this is now sort of covered over and God doesn't hold it against you, so it's okay now. And then basically that's you, except with the original sin as it came to be with like Augustine and all that, it became more than just like you fuck up sometimes, because it became like you are fucked up inside. And that's where you get Christian scientists at the Ark Park talking about how their cute little 5-year-old running around with their siblings is a dirty, filthy sinner and deserves to be damned without the love and sacrifice of Christ. That was a viral moment.
I did have one more thing to note about this psalm. So we can kind of tell that God doesn't really care about the sacrifice unless you mean it, basically. Through verses 16 through 18, where the wicked, and I think the word here is Rasha, right? Yeah. And does that have the same, at least the same root, right? Because I think Ra means evil or bad. So I'm not sure
It's
if
very
this is the same
difficult
as
to think
Resha. I
about.
don't think this is the same as Reshaim, right?
It's
But it
very
has,
difficult to go back and figure out like which. The idea is that most Hebrew words have a 3-letter root,
well, yeah.
and it's possible that there is connection between 3-letter roots. that share 2 letters. So maybe
Yeah.
very, very far back there were 2-letter roots, and then they became 3-letter roots. So, for example, tsa'ak means to cry, and tsachak means to laugh, and they share 2 letters. So maybe there is a pre-proto Semitic 2-letter root that meant like make a noise or whatever, and those were used to create these 3-letter roots.
Sure,
But
sure.
we don't know too much about that time
Fair
period
enough.
at all. So like Ra and Rasha both having the Ra and the Ah sound, possibly there is a connection there, but
Yeah, fair enough.
yeah.
And my unfinished sock says, "Don't dodge gifted memberships. Like and share the stream instead."
Thank you, Unfinished Sock. But yeah, the Rasha are said to at least attempt to take up the covenant, right? Which is why God's all like, "What right do you have to recite my statutes or take my covenant on your lips?" But they're not accepted because in their daily life they keep company with sinners.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, that's my note for that.
Yeah, sin is such a weird, icky, mortal concept.
Yeah.
It's very, like, some of the stuff is genuinely bad, but a lot of it is just, human. And yeah, the Christianity took the grossest, most absolutist, literal, in the worst, most childish way version of all of these things, and fucked over our psyches for 2,000 years. So fuck that. Yeah, not a fan.
All right, then are we done, Tomer?
I haven't started it.
He can't help it, Tomer. If he's not a smart ass, I mean, he wouldn't be the Aaron we love.
Of course. Okay, so commentators generally take Psalms 50 to be a sermon, or specifically a liturgical sermon, since, quote, it has been repeated more than once in much the same form before it entered the collection of songs and prayers called the Psalter, end quote, according to Gerstenberger. deClaissé-Walford writes that because of its references in verses 5 and 16 to the covenant, and because of the alternation of voices within the psalm between the first plural and first singular, many understand it as a liturgy that was used as part of a covenant renewal ceremony in ancient Israel, perhaps during the Feast of Tabernacles. Goldingay writes that while verses 1 through 6 can make one inclined to call Psalms 50 a prophecy, it might have been part of a liturgy, such as one celebrating the covenant, if there was such a regular celebration, or it might have been one delivered by a prophet on some occasion and then preserved for use on other appropriate occasions, when the priests thought it was needed. Gerstenberger writes that the life situation of Psalms 50 was that of the post-exilic Jewish congregation that came into being after the destruction of the Judean state with its religious institutions. Craigie writes that the explicit reference to Zion indicates a setting in the Jerusalem temple, and it may be that the names used of God are indicative of the fact that the psalm was employed in worship at a fairly early period in the history of the monarchy. And Telian comments, quote, the affinities that link this psalm to the oracles of judgment in the teaching of the great prophets, from Amos and Hosea to Jeremiah and Ezekiel, point to a time following the end of the Judite monarchy, and perhaps even the exile in Babylon. One cannot affirm with any degree of certainty whether it was conceived, composed, and originally sung at a ceremony of covenant renewal or a feast of the enthronement of Yahweh. There is no clear record showing that such a ceremony took place, either annually or every 7 years, as in Deuteronomy 26, 16 through 19, 31, 10 through 13. Lack of agreement among scholars is not surprising, given the tenuous character of the literary evidence, not even for the periods of the reforms under Hezekiah and Josiah. That such a ceremony of covenant renewal was the occasion of Psalms 50 has often been proposed. Nevertheless, not even the imagery of Zion, the perfection of beauty, and the reminiscences of sun worship in verse 2 may be adduced to strengthen this hypothesis. The more probable interpretation may be eschatological, end quote.
Yeah, I love, though, even though God is well, not supposed to be a sun god technically. You still get that idea, the terminology of it. And I mean, it's not stupid to worship the sun. I mean, worship isn't really going to do much, but it exists and it does grow our food and gives us vitamin D. So, you know, it's doing shit.
George Carlin worshipped the sun.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you can see the sun.
Yeah.
That helps.
That kind of helps the credibility along.
I love when modern, like, English-speaking Christians get confused between the word son, as in Jesus is the Son of God, and the sun, as in the son of the sky.
Oh my fucking god!
So funny.
That's zeitgeist.
Honestly, actually, this
Oh
is
my
what
God.
happened with the Book of Mormon, which cited, I think it was, it cited Malachi 3 or 4, and Joseph Smith decided that instead of a son with a U, it should be a son with an O.
Wait, so you took an English translation?
Some creationist a few days ago
The KJV
brought up that he started the argument against me by saying, you know, they disputed zeitgeist. You know that, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm one of the guys who refuted zeitgeist. What's your point? And then the guy got confused.
Yeah, zeitgeist is fucking terrible. Oh my fucking god.
That's so stupid.
Sun/sun thing with the two different spellings. Oh my fucking god. There was I did.
It's supposed to be based in Egypt. That's one of the few languages that has no fucking relation to English.
But I think the reference that I'm using is 3rd Nephi 25.
Okay. Sorry, Lawrence.
I remember there was a guy at I gave a talk about like the development of the Trinity, and there was a guy who asked me about that, and this was like a group of basically only atheists, and it was this old guy, like, I don't know, 80 or some shit, and he asked me about that. I'm like, no, there's no connection there. Absolutely, like those are only similar in English. Like, no.
Yeah. Just go back a few hundred years, and it's son and sun.
Yeah.
You know,
German.
It pisses me off because they made up a bunch of lies to discredit Christianity, and you don't need lies to discredit Christianity.
Right. Plenty of real criticisms.
For fuck's sake, just look up like what is it? A pious fraud. Look up the term pious fraud. Just take your pick. Christians have been lying since day one. Well, yeah. The Catholic Church had a lot of pious frauds as just in their saints, in their sacrament, in their
the Shroud of Turin.
Oh, well, yeah, but the Shroud of Turin was at least ripped off from another one that they insist was really authentic. But yeah, there was a whole thing. I remember hearing the story of how in somewhere in Italy near Rome, a house just appeared, and it was clearly the house of Mary, where she from Nazareth. And the proof was that if you go to Nazareth, their house of Mary is not there. And someone confirmed this because of course they did. And so, you know, it had magically been transported because look, there it isn't. And yeah, just
there's like at least two.
They had splinters.
There's two separate churches in Nazareth.
Well, now that claim to be the house of Mary. Oh, I know. Oh, they had they sold lots of splinters from the true cross, and someone did the math on how big that cross would have had to have been if all those splinters were authentic, and it was like a 1,500 foot cross.
It's Noah's Ark.
Yeah, exactly.
Right, yeah. There are so many. I mean, that was like one of the ways that they like increased essentially like tourism and church attendance back in the day. Like they would have their relics, right?
Yeah.
So
that's the word.
Isn't there an idea that the cross was made from wood from Noah's Ark? Or is that like
I have
No,
not heard that one.
Or is
well,
that
I
like Da
haven't
Vinci
heard-
Code rubbish?
I
That
think
might be
you're
Da Vinci
confusing
Code.
that with something Ron Wyatt said, where he
Oh.
claimed to have found Noah's Ark, and he claimed to have found the Ark of the Covenant, and he claimed to have found Jesus' cross and all that. And he found Jesus' cross and the Ark of the Covenant in the same place, because he said if you go down beneath where Jesus's crucifix was, that there's a catacomb that was guarded by angels, and somehow he got past the angels, or went in when they were taking a coffee break or something. But anyway, he found the Ark of the Covenant in this empty space under Jesus's cross, in this like underground thing, and then he scraped a bit of blood off the wall where it had run down from the cross onto the Ark of the Covenant.
And the blood was alive.
And it was
Yes.
alive.
Yes,
It was
he took it back
alive.
to he took it back to his house, put it under a microscope, and the blood reanimated. And of course,
Okay.
no corroboration on anything, and even Answers in Genesis says, "Don't listen to this guy. He's an idiot."
No,
And by the way,
no,
this-
Arn, he had it checked in a hospital where it then disappeared. Strangely enough.
because he bought it
Was
in a
that the
bottle cap.
hospital
And-
with Mr. Doctor Man?
But before it disappeared, they discovered that it was the actual blood of Jesus because it had 23 chromosomes or some shit. So
So
Yeah.
Jesus had
22
Down
from
syndrome. Right.
Mary
Okay.
and 1 from God. Because
Okay,
God has
you
only
have
one
to
chromosome.
You have to understand. Okay, there's a very simple explanation for this. God is like Sheldon Cooper. He can't throw anything away. So he made a storage closet to put all the bits and bobs of his favorite drama queen moments. And he basically Wyatt broke in. And so he's going to hell for that. Because he touched Sheldon's stuff and sat in his spot.
Yeah, by the way, this is a Texas indigo snake, and her
Aw.
name is Ashura.
Ooh.
Okay, where was that one? And Illyria the Free sent 50 RN Raw gift memberships.
Because the lyric is fucking awesome. Oh my god. Oh. Eyes.
I wanted to add on the title or verse 1 to Asaph. This is the first of 12 psalms attributed to Asaph, including Psalms 73 through 83. Goldingay notes that Asaph was known as a Levitical music leader and seer in David's day, as seen in 1 Chronicles 15, 17, and 19, 16, 4 through 7, and 2 Chronicles 29, 30, while his descendants were music leaders in the Second Temple. He writes that this psalm is in isolation from Psalm 73 through 83, and was given a link with Asaph because of him being a seer. deClaissé-Walford notes Tate's opinion that the Psalms of Asaph should be understood as sponsorship instead of authorship. Moreover, Hari Nasuti is of the opinion that the Asaphites were a historical group that functioned in the cult and in the life of Israel from pre through post-exilic times, with a definite Ephraimite tradition. Golder, however, sees the collection as coming from Israel between 732 and 722 BCE, and argues that the Psalms are a liturgically ordered group from an autumn festival. She writes, quote, "This is a discrete collection, even if scholars are unsure of the Psalm's original purpose," end quote. Craigie writes that the collection...
Wait a second. So her interpretation is Mizmal Asaf isn't a psalm for somebody called Asaf, it's a psalm for the time of gathering. La Asaf for gathering.
I mean, a sponsor sponsoring
Yeah, you can
religious
Psalm of harvest.
art
maybe.
could totally be a thing. It's fucking the Vatican is full of that shit.
Oh, and
Someone's yelling.
yeah, it's outside. I need to close the
Sorry.
window.
It's okay.
Sorry.
It's okay.
So Craigie writes that the collection of Asaph's psalms embraces a variety of different forms and literary types. He writes that in spite of attempts to find continuity and conformity within these psalms, there is no formal conformity or distinctive commonality of theme that would make it possible to link them in some meaningful way with the Asaphite temple singers.
Okay.
Oh, in the chat, I would just like to say happy birthday to overqualified bear like Azir, which is a very cool name, but probably not easy to spell on a cake. So happy birthday. Have cake.
Little do you know that their real name is actually far longer.
Very likely.
And this is an extreme reverse Okati corn snake. Her name
Aww.
is Lilith.
Yay!
Is
Hello, Lilith.
Is
Do you
this
have
one
a corn
venomous?
snake?
No.
No.
Do you have a corn
Which,
snake?
by the way,
named Candy?
reminds me, I won't be able to be here on next Saturday.
We know why. Okay.
Thanks.
Arn was leading up
Well,
to that.
we can't cancel Wednesday again if we do that. So we'll figure out a way to do Wednesday. Maybe that
Yeah.
seems to be a day that mostly works for people.
Yeah, it works for me as well.
Good, because this is going to be a little different one. This is another Snake Appreciation Day, but it's in another town. And I'm supposed to meet Matt and Arden there. Matt Bilahoney.
Oh, make a little
and
video for us.
They currently have my false water cobra Tatiana because she's kind of on a date.
Oh,
Yeah. So they've had her for a little bit, and they might be bringing her back to me then, depending on her condition and whether she's gravid.
right. No, if she's happy, snakes need to be happy. It's okay, Lilith. I know. He's very
Yeah.
sweet. You don't need to bite him though. He's not one of those.
But this show sells hot snakes.
Nice. Okay.
As opposed to the ugly snakes at the other shows.
Well, yeah. My
It's a
hot
scaly
snake,
convention.
Hot snakes,
vipers
that's
and the leopards.
similar to hot dogs, Arn?
No, I mean, the last one of these that I was at, I held a black mamba and a couple of rattlesnakes and a rhino viper. So yeah, and
Nice.
and at least one cobra. And I've been making noise about whether I was gonna come home with a copperhead.
You're just going for all the tropes, aren't you?
Arn holding rattlesnakes. Next, he's going to tell us he's going to be a preacher.
Yeah.
I mean, you could pull off. Remember? Oh, who was that guy? He was the first graduate from that thing, getting out of religion, and he did that whole "Can I get a Darwin?" I loved that routine. That was hilarious. He had such a great vibe.
Yeah. Okay. Moving
All
on.
right. Yes. Moving on.
Yeah.
Psalm 51.
Yes.
Okay. Hold on a sec. What? Oh, never mind. Okay. I think I fixed it. For the director of music, a psalm of David, when the prophet Nathan came to him after David had committed adultery with Bathsheba, by which we mean he raped her and murdered her husband, who was one of his oldest friends.
I mean, I should note that like there is a pun in this verse.
Yeah, the
which it
Hebrew is a bit
means-
different.
yeah, Nathan the prophet came, which Bo, he came to him, Bo, after David, after he had came, to Bathsheba. So there is a
Okay.
play here.
So
Yeah,
the
the
come
prophet came to
play.
him after he had come to Bathsheba.
Yes.
Okay, it's a cum joke. Yeah.
What's all this about playing with cum?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so David is vowy, sorry. Have mercy on me, O God, according to your unfailing love, according to your great compassion, blot out my transgressions. Wash away my iniquity and cleanse me from my sin. For I know my transgressions, and my sin is always before me. Against you, you only, have I sinned and done what is evil in your sight, so that you are proved right when you speak and justified when you judge. Tomer, can you mute your
Sorry.
mic?
Yeah, sorry.
Thanks. Surely I was sinful at birth, sinful from the time my mother conceived me. Surely you desire truth in the inner parts. You teach me wisdom in the inmost place. Cleanse me with hyssop, and I will be clean. Wash me, and I will be whiter than snow. Let me hear joy and gladness. Let the bones you have crushed rejoice. Hide your face from my sins and blot out all my iniquity. Create in me a pure heart, O God, because I'm a dirty bastard, and renew a steadfast spirit within me. Do not cast me from your presence or take your Holy Spirit from me. Restore to me the joy of your salvation and grant me a willing spirit to sustain me. Then I will teach transgressors your ways, and sinners will turn back to you. Save me from blood guilt, O God, since I betrayed one of my oldest friends and had them murdered. The God who saves me, and my tongue will sing of your righteousness. O Lord, open my lips, and my mouth will declare your praise. You do not delight in sacrifice, or I would bring it. You do not take pleasure in burnt offerings. The sacrifices of God are a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart, O God, you will not despise. In your good pleasure, make Zion prosper. Build up the walls of Jerusalem. Then there will be righteous sacrifices, whole burnt offerings to delight you. Then bulls will be offered on your altar. The bullshit of David.
What?
Just it's so horrible. I hate this story so much, and I resent everyone in it, because Uriah wasn't just like, he was one of David's mighty men, which means he was in the lowest point with David, in the caves, fighting, desperate, on, poverty stricken. They were brothers in arms. And, then he rapes his wife, has him killed because he can't cover up the pregnancy. And then God tortures his kid to death for 7 days. The baby was sick for 7 days. I don't know with what, but I guarantee it wasn't fun. Tortures the baby to death, and then sends a plague that stops at Jerusalem because David cried really hard and God felt sorry for him, but still killed thousands of people.
Damn nepotism. So I do have a few things here. So I just wanted to point out that I'm sure you guys will remember this in verse 4 when it says, I have sinned and done what is evil in your sight. We can compare that to the very often used phrase in the king's narrative, did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, or did what was right in the sight of the Lord. So we can so even though, like, if the narrative didn't make it clear, or whatever narrative we can get out of this didn't make it clear, that verse certainly would make it clear that they're talking about the transgressions, the sins that he actually did.
I'm getting Jimmy Swaggart vibes.
You did what?
Yeah. Yeah, Jimmy Swaggart vibes.
I have sinned against you.
Right. Yeah.
A great sin in the eyes of the Lord. Well,
Yeah.
he admitted to adultery. He didn't admit that he and his friend raped a woman.
Well, right. Yeah. So
Because
and
that's
then
the same thing in their minds.
in verse 5 here, which I'm sure we'll talk more about. Indeed, I was born guilty. So of course, it's often been linked to original sin because, of course, yeah. But especially it was linked to original sin because of the sexual connotation. So, for example, Tate points out that sexual intercourse or any sexual passion really was viewed as the knowledge received by Adam and Eve in Genesis 3. So, simply being born was viewed as sinful because you're all steeped in sex juices. But
At least by the end of the video, yeah.
Yeah, but since people are told to often to populate the earth, it's unlikely that it's just referring to sex or being the product of sex. The idea here is more likely to be that human nature itself is sinful, not explicitly a sexual act. And then sorry, what?
I think it's important to point out that while this is not always explicit, Christianity has always been about shame and sex and shame. It's every element of it has been steeped in that from the beginning. And even though they will pretend, of course, this has nothing to do with sex. Look at some of the signs that churches put out. One went viral 2 days ago, like, God, empty me, fill me, use me. And it's like,
all right, buddy.
That's for OnlyFans.
Yeah, you got a better room for that
not
one.
Just OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Oh no, sorry, you're right. Not just OnlyFans. There are other websites you could use as well. That is true. So in verse 7, the hyssop.
Never got it.
It was used in cleansing rituals in Leviticus and was used to sprinkle blood on the doorposts in Exodus. So there is the cleansing quality of hyssop stems back pretty far.
The leprosy ritual, cleansing ritual, I think it also has hyssop.
Verse 17 was an interesting one to me. The sacrifice acceptable to God is a broken spirit, a broken and contrite heart. Oh God, you will not despise. And initially I was like, well, that's a strange verse. But some scholars have argued that once a sinner becomes aware of his sins, he has a broken spirit and a contrite heart. Essentially, the sacrifice that God will accept is repentance and turning away from a sinful life. That's like the sacrifice that you need. So yeah, definitely a lot of shame culture there. In the following verses, verses 18 through 19, animal sacrifices not being good enough alone. So first you have to change your life and turn towards God. Then you can start offering the sacrifices. Otherwise, the sacrifices are null and void, which also goes to the stuff that we were talking about in the last psalm as well. How the sacrifice itself doesn't actually do anything if outside of that you are the scumbag, at least in the eyes of God.
Well, yeah, it's okay to be a scumbag, apparently, as long as you do actually feel really bad at some point. Maybe because your life is threatened, but you feel bad. And yeah, let the bones you have crushed rejoice. Like, very please, sir, may I have another? Yeah, it's very, very, thank you for torturing me, daddy. It's so fucked up, but that's what they want. They want you to be ashamed and in a constant state of like striving for absolution. But it's jam tomorrow. It's always just coming. The good will come. It's just ahead of you. It's just ahead of you. And if they can just keep you on that crust, they can do anything with you. It's emotionally quite exhausting place to stay, though. Yeah. So again, it's like bad BDSM with no consent and no aftercare. Because you're never supposed to get to after. You're just supposed to hang in purgatory forever.
Mm. Okay, so first off, because we're starting with Psalms 51, this means that instead of Craigie, we have Tate, or Marvin E. Tate, Tate's commentary. And also we start with the Hermenia commentary as well, finally, by Erich Zenger and Frank Lothar Hosfeld. So
Is it
so great.
Hermenia or Hermenia?
Hermenia. I don't know.
Yeah. So and I said this before, but I'm gonna say it again. Big shout out to the used bookstore in downtown Milwaukee, because I got a copy of Tate's commentary for $10.
Wow.
I know you lost a lot of books, Lawrence. Send me a list if you could, because I live not that far from a very excellent used bookstore, and I could have a look. I'm not saying I'd find anything, but things big.
Yeah, I just like every single time that I go in there now, I definitely take like basically all of their commentaries, and then like I find some other random stuff, because they have a fairly small section on like Christianity, the Bible, religion. Like a lot of their religious stuff is very like it's like the fucking slop that preachers publish most of the time. Like it doesn't actually, they're not doing anything, they're not saying anything of substance. It's mostly just like, oh God, he's so great, and I'm just like, I don't give a fuck about this. So that's most of it. But it's a used bookstore. But yeah, when there is an occasional gem, I found a there was a like some selections from some church fathers, for example, and they were in Greek, and I was like, this is fucking great. So I'm going back there at least like once a month, but it's great. It's really good stuff.
Well, I'll see if I can find anything good.
Yeah, we got a half price books down here that I've donated a number of things to, and it's
Nice.
It's a huge building, so they have it's the biggest bookstore of its type that I've ever seen. So if you've got something special you're looking for, I'd be happy to take a look.
Yeah, it's the thing is, when it comes to bookstores, I usually don't have anything specific in mind, because the stuff I'm looking for is so niche that I know that they'll basically never have it. So it's just like kind of browse around, see what I can find.
Okay. Well, that's why I say the half price books, these are donated from other people, and so almost everything they have is niche.
Well, I'm just gonna get some toast. I'll be right back. But
Yep.
I'll turn up the volume and listen to Tomer's commentary.
Thank you.
Well,
okay, so
Illyra the Free sent 50 RN Raw gift memberships. Well, that takes us up to 260.
Wow.
210.
Yeah. We were at 210.
We were at 210? Did I? Okay.
According to your note above, it was at the same. It's in the same minute, but I would have thought that you meant this before that. Okay, so all right.
No.
Well, I guess that's out of order.
Yeah, it was 210.
Okay.
okay,
Tomer?
so yes, Psalms 51 is generally taken to be a penitential psalm, or as quote, a prayer petitioning for forgiveness of sins and new creation, end quote, according to Zenger.
A
deClaissé-Walford
penitentiary song?
Penitential, yes.
And it doesn't mention
Penitential.
anything about trains? Sorry.
Wait, what?
God damn it. I have no idea.
Johnny Cash.
Oh, okay.
I'm
San
stuck in
Quentin.
Folsom Prison. Yeah.
Or San Quentin.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Okay, so deClaissé-Walford notes that while the psalm is generally described as a lament, it lacks many of the elements that are characteristic of the lament. It has no complaint against an enemy and no plea to God to act against the enemy. She writes that it is a straightforward confession of transgression against God and humanity, with a plea for restoration and promises of proper action in the future. She writes, however, that lament is an apt description of the psalm. Tate writes that the primary psalm, in verses 1 through 17, which is 3 through 19, was used in a ritual of repentance and healing for a sick person, and was designed for a recitation in a private sick room, aided perhaps by a priest. Gerstenberger writes that Psalms 51 is a penitential prayer of the individual, and that the excessive consciousness of human sinfulness and refined spiritualized theological concepts seem to point to the early synagogue worship as the place of origin. Krauss notes two observations which might help with the dating of the psalm. One, the prayer for a clean heart and a spirit of obedience in verses 10 through 12, which is 12 through 14, which reminds us of Jeremiah 24:7, 31:33, 32:39, Ezekiel 36:25 forward. And two, the thoughts about the value of sacrifice in verses 16 forward point to the prophetic protest against the sacrificial system, as seen in Amos 5:22, Isaiah 1:11, and Jeremiah 6:20. He writes that it is certain that Psalms 51 should be dated later than Ezekiel 36, and that verses 18 and 19, which is 20 and 21, should be dated to the time of Nehemiah. Tellien dates the psalm to the 6th century, comparing the psalmist's confessions to that of Jeremiah 14:7. Zenger argued that the primary psalm, 1 through 18, should be dated to the post-exilic period, given that it presupposes exilic and post-exilic texts from Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. And about the title, when the prophet Nathan came to him, etc., the reference is to 2 Samuel 11 and 12, and more specifically, when David slept with Bathsheba in 2 Samuel 11:4. The Psalter uses the word ba, came, as a double entendre. Tate writes that scribal interpreters judge the psalm to be appropriate as a statement of confession for David's sin, and a petition for forgiveness. Gerstenberger notes that it is interesting that the Psalter does not mention the murder of Uriah, Bathsheba's husband, in 2 Samuel 12:9, and that neither of these scenes is alluded to in the prayer itself. Krauss, however, argues that such a reference, even if it does not coincide with historical facts, quote-unquote, should not simply be disregarded as a secondary accretion, and therefore as immaterial. Citing H.J. Stobbe, he writes that it would be completely wrong to discard such titles as fictional inventions and later accretions to the text. Instead, quote, they carry considerable weight with us, for they are living proof of how the community heard and understood. They are, so to say, illustrations, and, as such, evidence both of faith and of first interpretation, end quote.
What about verse 16? Like, save me from blood guilt.
Yeah,
like Steinsaltz, like, straight up said this is referring to David causing the death of Uriah.
Let's see. I don't think.
I mean, if you wanted to insist that Uriah had nothing to do with it, you could always say that it would be blood guilt for having called the wrath of God down on his people, and having so many of them die of a plague because he couldn't keep it in his pants.
Yeah, Rashi as well. Save me from blood, that I should not die by the sword as punishment for Uriah, whom I killed.
I don't think so. I mean, the reference is not explicit, but I could.
Yeah,
check.
it's not explicit. It's just like, but you could you could, if the first part of, if they added that, it could be a coincidence. It fits in, right?
Yeah. So Tate writes that Yeah, so he writes that the blood guilt or bloodshed of 51:16 correlates with the murder of Uriah and other bloody incidents in the career of David. The absence of enemies.
I mean, that could be the one part of the psalm that was like, this is talking about David. So
he notes that there are like some parallels with like David's story, such as David's confession to Nathan, which fits with Psalms 51:6. The use of chet, sin, in 7 verses corresponds to the use of the same verb in David's confession in 2 Samuel 12:13. But he writes that these parallels do not establish Davidic authorship of the psalm. The language of the psalm is general and not specific. The basic nature of these superscriptions and historical notes points toward scribal interpretation more than toward composition. The historical note is a way of saying that the understanding of the psalm is helped when it is read in a particular context. The question of literary composition is largely irrelevant, but the authority of the psalmist, a Davidic psalm, is enhanced by the historical note. Yeah, I think. Yeah, okay.
Okay, should we do 52?
I don't mind. Okay, so I read. For the leader, a maskil of David. When Doeg the Edomite came and informed Saul, telling him, David came to Ahimelech's house. Why do you boast of your evil, brave fellow? God's faithfulness never ceases. Your tongue devises mischief like a sharpened razor that works treacherously. You prefer evil to good, the lie to speaking truthfully, Selah. You love all pernicious words, treacherous speech. So God will tear you down for good, will break you and pluck you from your tent and root you out of the land of the living, Selah. The righteous, seeing it, will be awestruck. They will jibe at him, saying, Here was a fellow who did not make God his refuge, but trusted in his great wealth, relied upon his mischief. But I am like a thriving olive tree in God's house. I trust in the faithfulness of God forever and ever. I praise you forever, for you have acted. I declare that your name is good in the presence of your faithful ones.
So the title, this is a reference to, or the title was thought, or it was added because people thought it was David speaking during the episode in 1 Samuel 21. And only have a couple notes on this one. In verse 1 there, why do you boast, Almighty One? That Almighty One, it's probably a sarcastic comment based on the fact that he, quote, trusted in abundant riches and sought refuge in wealth in verse 7. So if we think back to the stuff we've read today so far, that kind of stuff don't fly. But obviously they would think that they're pretty mighty. So calling him Almighty One is a sarcastic comment.
Definitely.
And then in verse 5, especially where it says, he will snatch and tear you from your tent, the reference to being pulled from that tent has led a lot of scholars to believe that this was about a conflict within the temple, so maybe between priests. And I think there's a verse later, I'm not sure if we'll get to it today, or a psalm later, I should say, that kind of has the same idea about, like we walked through God's tent together and you betrayed me, basically. So it might have a similar idea here, that there was some kind of some conflict between people who were going to the temple.
That's one way to put it. Dragging people out of their tent. It's wigs on the green, people. That's throwing down. That is TMX behavior. Is everybody muted?
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, so the classification of Psalms 52 is uncertain.
TMZ.
Hosfeld and Zenger take the psalm to be an individual lament, taking the prophetic judgment discourse in verses 3 through 7 as an indirect pointer to the petitioner's suffering. Likewise, Tate writes that the best approach is to read the psalm in terms of the language of prophetic judgment speech to an individual. Krauss suggests that the closest parallel is Isaiah 22, 15 through 19. The setting for this psalm is unclear. Tate writes that if the Davidic concept for the psalm is not accepted, then it's impossible to be specific about alternatives. The most probable understanding, however, would seem to be one relating the psalm to internal conflicts between cultic prophets or priests who have been attacked, and perhaps persecuted by temple personnel who are opposed to them. He writes that the psalm is likely to reflect internal conflict and corruption in the cultic establishment. He adds that while a date is impossible to determine, the evidence for conflict is in the post-exilic temple is clear, and a date after 515 BCE would be reasonable. Terrien asks if this psalm was composed after a perfidious uprising by a military hero, or was it originally a liturgical part of a passion of David. He writes that such a ceremonial may have been initiated in part by the death of Josiah in 609 BCE, or that it was developed during the exile or in the early days of the restoration in 515 BCE. Hosfeld and Zenger write that in contrast to the parallel wisdom psalms in 37, 49, and 73, Psalms 52 belongs to the period of the First Temple. And Gerstenberger comments, quote, Psalm 52 is a good example of how older complaint forms have changed with the transformation of the worshipping group in Israel's history, becoming communal instruction. The misery of the oppressed classes has become so general in Psalms 12, 37, 49, and 73 that the necessary confrontation with those who are responsible for it must assume the forms of liturgical invectives. Beyerlin calls this psalm a polemic offensive speech, quote unquote. But this form can hardly be derived from wisdom contests. The setting very probably is that of synagogal worship. The mention of the temple precincts in verse 10 is very plausible in a distant congregation. The second temple in Jerusalem quite likely catered more to the official sacrificial rites, while the needs of suffering individuals were better attended to by local communities, compare Psalms 50. And about the title, when Doeg the Edomite, etc., this title is a reference to 1 Samuel 21 and 22, where Doeg, the chief of Saul's herdsmen, informs Saul that David went to Nob and received food, spiritual encouragement, and Goliath's sword from Ahimelech the priest. This resulted in the massacre of the priests at Nob by Doeg, after the warriors of Saul refused to obey his order. Most commentators take the reference to be secondary. Tate writes that the scribal interpreters who supplied the historical note probably thought of David as the speaker, directing his remark to Doeg, possibly to Saul, though the psalm does not fit either very well. Hosfeld writes that the reference has to do with the quote, the Davidizing of the Psalter, end quote. He quotes from Martin Clear, quote, the beginning of the Davidizing of the Psalms, whose critical impulse is to be sought in the identity crisis of the exile, does not yet represent David as the author or poet of the Psalms. David is, to begin with, only a figure of identification, and the Psalms with the superscription Le David are an invitation to the person praying to identify with David. The Psalms are to be read or prayed in association with David, end quote. Hosfeld and Zeger write that by means of the addition of biographical situations dated to the late 6th to 5th century by Martin Clear, these psalms were related to situations in the life of David. Still, Terrien writes that the superscription may well reflect a valid tradition of a Davidic ritual, the existence of which is not told elsewhere. That's it.
I wanted to address some idiot in the chat real quick.
Yeah.
Yep, sorry. So Aaron used to be, years ago, before I legally changed my name to Aaron Ra, Aaron, pronounced Aaron, was my middle name, and my legal name then was my family name, Nelson. But this dickless idiot in the chat accuses me of being dishonest by not knowing the difference between my middle name and my last name. So he calls me dishonest because he's stupid. So if he says another idiot comment like that, drop him.
Right. So nobody
Really
has ever
did.
changed their name in the history of the world.
Oh, he thinks that your old last name is your current first name.
I don't know what he thinks or if he thinks.
Yeah, I was going to
hasn't
say,
demonstrated that.
sounds generous, unduly so.
Yeah.
All right.
So, take him out.
I guess it's my turn.
Yes, go.
Indeed.
Thank you.
The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish.
You're not to that
and the-
part yet.
Well, that part
Boy.
doesn't exist.
Yeah, but I'm so looking forward to that because you know it's going to be in here.
Now I wanted to, you heard about
Quentin Tarantino quote.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I knew that of all the wannabe Christians, that Pete Hesketh was one of the least likely to have read any of the Bible. Oh, right. And after the, the Trump fake AI Jesus thing, which, by the way, that is not a new thing. Him reposting it is a new thing, but there have been creepy worshipful of Trump. My mother has requested that we come up with a name for the worshipers of Trump, because she maintains that this is not true Christianity. And honestly, worshiping someone other than Jesus and God, there's a valid argument for that legitimately not being Christianity, because they mention a lot. You're not supposed to do that. A lot. It's kind of the whole thing. Trumpansies. I feel like chimpanzees should be insulted, but yeah, they're. Yeah. So because the worship of a person.
Someone literally said it just as I said it.
Oh, nice. Okay. Trumpanzees. Yeah. Trumpians.
And we got a comment from Alira the Free, who again offers 220 Turkish lira and says, Trump Bible, thou shalt speak of thyself in tremendous terms. Count every crowd as the greatest, every meal the best, and every victory historic. And if any man disagree, thou shalt declare it fake, sad, and very unfair.
You're not even reading it right. It should be read differently. If you allow
one of the
me-
worst
Actually,
reporters
I didn't
I've
ask.
ever
I'm just
read.
going to do it. You don't have to allow me because no one tells me what to do. I'm just going to read it the proper way it was meant to be written. Thou shalt speak of thyself. That means myself, in case you didn't know, because a lot of people don't know that. In tremendous terms, count every crowd the greatest, which they are, because all my crowds are amazing. Every meal the best, and they are the best because I spend the most money. I have so much. And every victory fantastic. They don't get a better victory than Trump victories. We keep winning. Yes, we do. And if any man disagrees, that means you. A lot of people don't know that one, but I do. I know that one because I've studied a lot of thous. Shall declare it fake, sad, and very unfair, like the fake news.
I will be so glad when this era of history is over with.
Yeah. Champagne on ice.
May you live-
Hmm?
May you live in uninteresting times.
Thank you. And then Shut Up Matt says, if Tarantino rewrote the Bible, could we tell the difference? Apart from there being more about feet, obviously. If
More
Tarantino
women.
wrote the Bible, it would damn Skippy be a lot better. And when
The
we
dialogue
get to
would be
Ezekiel,
better.
we're going to compare Tarantino's line to the original line, just to see.
In fairness, I'm not sure how the motherfuckers would fit into the Bible, since that is absolutely canon in a Tarantino universe. It would be just as bloody and fucked up, but maybe women could get their own back a little more.
Are we talking
something.
about Cain and Abel or the sons?
And I love the fact that Tarantino did this line, and so they read this thing out of the Bible, and he goes, "Well, yeah, there's some potential there, but we got to change it all up, and because the Bible is not written as well as what I would do, so let's do it this way."
He was right.
Yeah, and the whole of the Bible would probably be just a hell of a lot better if instead of in the beginning, if it said once upon a time. I think that would much better set the theme.
Oh, definitely. Definitely. Once upon a time when God was a little bitch.
Arn, but aren't you just a little bit flattered that Trump is now trying to, with the help of a few other people, trying to outdo you?
Trump is trying to outdo me?
Yes, he's going to take part in a week-long reading of the entire Bible. He will partake in reading a little bit from 2 Chronicles. Not kidding. This is serious.
Oh God, that's what people are talking about. I'm sorry, I don't listen to that thing when it speaks. It's not like it makes any sense anyway, or ever says anything true. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there he would probably like. There's a lot of telling a lot of people he seems to be a fan.
Yeah, when I think of Trump reading anything, there's obviously with a lot of help, or it has to be adjusted to his grade level, and I would suggest that that's probably somewhere around the level of Dick and Jane.
I can't wait. If he reads that the same way he reads things off his teleprompter and goes off of complete nutcase tangents, this could be the greatest Bible reading ever.
It will contain very little Bible, but it will be interesting in the same way a car crash is. But
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, Tomer, do you have any more?
Oh, I haven't actually.
You have 2
We
more.
haven't read this.
Arn, you have 2 more.
Let me see here. Dr. Kip Davis.
Kip!
If Tarantino wrote the Bible, Yahweh would get absolutely fucked by his slaves. I
want to see that.
You die, boy. And then Danger Man 1973 offers $5 and says, "There is only one King of Kings and Lord of Lords, Kratos and Caillou Kusanagi." I don't know who these are. They're 2 video game characters. Well, of course, I don't know who they are.
I know Kratos. That's about it.
Hell yeah.
Kyo Kusanagi?
Yeah, no idea.
I think I gave up on video games before Sonic.
Okay, I'm going to go.
You gave up on video games before Pong.
I can't have begun.
I was going to say that. You beat me to it.
Fighting game.
I need to get back to finishing Assassin's Creed Valhalla so I can play Mirage. I'm going to go stab people in the head this afternoon on video games. It's very satisfying, especially because the Creed is actively against slavery and about killing tyrants. And I like that. I really loved the Black Flag expansion where you got to go around to like slave plantations in the Caribbean and just stab slavers in the head. Yay!
Okay. And then Sable Eagle says, "Are they ready to cut the video feed before he starts shaking it over Numbers 31?"
That's in regarding to Trump reading the Bible. I like that.
Yeah. Oh, how much fun would that be? That would be the thing to listen to Trump read. Yeah. "Kill all the males among the little ones, but the little girls who have not known a man by lying with him, you can keep for yourselves."
Right,
oh God!
Create for them an island.
I think that was the same chapter where it said, to kill all the women who have ever slept with a man.
Yep.
Yeah.
The little girls.
But it specifies little girls.
Oh yeah,
Keep
definitely.
Yeah, it's maybe that's why they drowned that baby, because it was male, and so they couldn't rape it.
And also, yes, here, I just saw in the chat, Ferdhausen is completely right. The actual King of Kings is Triple H.
Shut up, Matt says, Aaron, Chump will go off topic when Bible reading. Didn't we already do Book of Mormon? Yeah.
All right. I'll do Psalm 53. It's quite a short one anyway.
Okay.
For the leader on Mahalath, a maskil of David, the benighted man thinks God does not care. Man's wrongdoings is corrupt and loathsome. No one does good. God looks down from heaven on mankind to find a man of understanding, a man mindful of God. Everyone is dross, altogether foul. There is none who does good, not even one. Are they so witless, those evildoers, who devour my people as they devour food and do not invoke God? There they will be seized with fright. Never was there such a fright. For God has scattered the bones of your besiegers. You have put them to shame, for God has rejected them. Oh, that the deliverance of Israel might come from Zion. When God restores the fortunes of his people, Jacob will exult, Israel will rejoice. And yeah, this psalm is incredibly similar to Psalm 14, which is quoted a lot because of that part about the fool says in his heart, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very, very similar. But of course, and I did reference this earlier, there are places where it says Yahweh in Psalm 14, that this one changes those instances to Elohim.
Yeah, it's almost like the Elohist source doesn't like to use the word Yahweh at all, and either they're taking a mixed psalm like 14 and changing it to all the references to Elohim, or which is more likely, I think, is that the Yahweh source is taking verses that talk about Elohim and being like, well, this one, if I change it to Yahweh, makes it sound better. So it has a mixture of Elohim and Yahweh.
Or if
it's not just a one-to-one, yeah.
Or if they stem from, the same source, then
Right.
one group of people would have been, using Yahweh, and then another one would have been using Elohim, potentially as well.
Right, but I'm saying the Yahwist would have been, if there was an older version that wasn't Yahwist, then it would have probably been Elohim.
Sure.
With. Yeah.
And I mean, for commentary, honestly, my commentary is pretty much the same as it was for Psalm 14. So, got nothing else super special.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's some interesting differences. I mean, there's a couple of verses that are identical except for the word Yahweh being Elohim in this version. There's one which I think is quite interesting, which is that in verse 6 in 53:6 is quite a long verse, and it lines up quite well with two verses in 14, but it has slightly different words. But there is one bit where it's interesting, the choice of words, because the Hebrew, the letters are similar, but they're completely different meanings. So like scattered the bones of your besiegers, the word for bones is very similar to the word that is used in Psalm 14 that means something completely different. I guess Tom might have something to say about that, maybe. But yeah, like the last verse is identical. I think verse 5 is pretty similar. No, maybe not. Yeah. All right, Tom, you want to take a crack at it?
Yeah. So Psalms 53 is almost verbatim Psalms 14 with several variations. Two noticeable differences between the two psalms. One, Psalms 53 uses Elohim instead of Yahweh in 4 cases. And two, major differences occur in verse 6, and an additional verse is found in 14:6. Hosfeld and Zenger note 4 scholarly positions regarding the text's relationship. Quote, 1. The two forms of the text are merely variant traditions of primitive text that can be reconstructed. That is, there has been a process of polishing similar to what has happened to a number of Christian hymns, according to Budd. 2. The differences are due to faulty transmission. One of the versions is to be regarded as the original or the better text, according to Bathgen, Dom, Kittel, Krauss, who favors Psalms 14, and Gonko favored Psalms 53. 3. The differences are due to deliberate alteration that took place when the original version of the psalm acquired a new Sitz im Leben, according to Eerdmans. 4. The differences are connected to the different literary contexts within which Psalms 53 and 14 are embedded. That is, the differences are explained by redaction criticism, which is their position. End quote. Tate argues that the psalm should not be treated as the product of editorial changes or textual corruption. Rather, each psalm has its own message, and the reductions should be respected. In Psalms 53, it can be argued that verses 5 and 6 have given the psalm a new genre, or a variant of the genre of prophetic speech. While Psalms 14 may be read as referring to evildoers in Israel and of God's judgment of them, in Psalms 53, the situation is that of Israel having been recently under siege and of the powerful intervention of God against foreigners who try to devour his people. Thus, he writes that the genre seems more nearly that of prophetic mocking speech or taunt, examples of which can be found in Numbers 21, 27 through 30, Ezekiel 28, 2 through 10, 12 through 19, and Isaiah 14, 4 through 20. Tanner suggested that the psalm was used in 2 different collections, probably from 2 different geographical areas. They argue that the differences between the 2 psalms confirm that psalms were adapted for different circumstances and for use in different communities, and as such, they should be treated separately, instead of one as a redacted or corrupted version of the other. Gerstenberger writes that, like Psalms 12, 36, 49, 52, etc., this poem belongs to the broader category of early Jewish synagogue speeches. More precisely, it is an instruction of the community concerning the faith of the godless. Hosfeld and Zenger argue that the primary version of the Psalm 14, 1 through 5, received in verses 1 through 6b, probably originated in the late pre-exilic period. And regarding the machalat in the title, the term appears also in the title of Psalms 88, but not in Psalms 14. Aquila, Symmachus, Theodotion, and Vulgate read machalat as a cultic round dance from machol, and understood the heading as referring to roundelay. Targum reads, concerning the punishment of the wicked who profane the name of the Lord, end quote, reading machalat from the root halal, to profane. Some Targum versions give a double translation, also associating machalat with the Hebrew word khalil, pipe or flute. Rashi wrote that machalat refers either to a musical instrument or, quote, concerning the malady, machalatan, of Israel when the temple will be destroyed. Ibn Ezra notes that some said that the word is related to chalul, hollowed, referring to a hollowed instrument, but writes that the word refers to a tune of a song opening with the word machalat. Tate notes that Movinkel thought that al-machalat refers to flute playing in rites of Lamentations. Terian takes machalat to be a stringed instrument. Hosfeld and Zenger note that machalat can be taken as the construct state of machala, sickness, and would then suggest a lamenting, heavy-hearted melody that would at any rate fit Psalms 88. That's it.
Well, at least they knew to do a sad song.
Right. Yeah. So should we hop in then to Psalm 54?
Yes. And I forget who's reading that.
Well, Isaac just read 53, so I think that one's you.
Okay. All right. This one is what? Okay. Let me take a look at those. Dr. Kip Davis says it doesn't change Yahweh to Melchizedek. Weird.
Yeah, that's so strange.
And then Elira the Free offers 110 Turkish lira and says, Trump Bible, thou shalt praise thyself of winning in the morning winning at noon and winning at night, until thy people cry, surely this man would even win at losing. Yeah. Okay, and thank you for that. All right, so where was I? Oh, yes, this is the prayer for vindication to the leader, colon, with stringed instruments, period, a maskil of David, comma, when the Ziphites went and told Saul, comma, David is hiding among us, period. Okay. Save me, O God, by your name, and vindicate me by your might. Hear my prayer, O God. Give ear to the words of my mouth. For the insolent have risen against me. The ruthless seek my life. They do not set God before them, Selah. But surely God is my helper. The Lord is the upholder of my life. He will repay my enemies for their evil. In your faithfulness, put an end to them. With a free will offering, I will sacrifice to you. I will give thanks to your name, O Lord, for it is good. For he has delivered me from every trouble, and my eye has looked in triumph on my enemies.
Now, for this one, I had literally nothing. This one was so lame, so boring,
and different than the one I read earlier. So this is a different author again.
Well,
Yeah.
it's the thing is, it's hard to tell who's who with these, because while there are some common themes, you can hardly tell authorship for some of these, especially something as short as this. But I would say that, you know, the reason why I really had nothing to say was because a lot of this stuff we've already seen so many times. So like anything that I would say would be really, really pretty redundant, and most of it is just honestly self-explanatory.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, like I said before, so many of these are just sucking God's dick in A minor versus E major. This one is clearly save me, daddy. Selah. I think that takes it.
Sorry. Okay,
Yes,
so I'll start with what I have to say. So, Klaus suggested that the profiled Shem theology of the song might indicate that it is post-Deuteronomy. However, Gerstenberger writes that the mentioning of the name of the Lord does not necessarily involve late word theology. Hosford notes that pre-exilic name theology is found in the law of the altar in the Book of the Covenant in Exodus 20:24, in the pre-exilic petitionary prayer for the king in Psalms 22, 6, 8, in the ancient petitionary prayer in Psalms 44, 2-9, and in the field of older proverbial wisdom, as seen in Proverbs 18:10. He writes that the parallels in motif, word, and form confirm the impression that Psalms 54 is the petitionary prayer of a righteous person, one that can certainly stem from the time before the exile. Still, Terrian suggested that Psalms 54 fits the time of the early post-exilic growth of the Messianic hope, and that a 6th or 5th century poet may have adapted to eschatological ideology an individual lament from an ancient date. Tate writes that any attempt to date the psalm is a futile effort. Regarding the genre of the psalm, he writes, quote, Psalms 54 belongs to the general category of the individual laments, though verses 8 and 9 could suggest a thanksgiving of a persecuted person who praises the name of God and is prepared to offer sacrifice. However, it seems best to treat verse 9 as expressing a change of mood like that found in several psalms of lament. Whether these transitions were the result of some cultic act external to the worshipper, such as a word from a priest, or whether these psalms were designed to bring the one praying them to a point of faith and confidence is uncertain. Westermann points out that the heard petition is a major component of the psalms of individual lament. Such laments move into thanksgiving and no longer represent mere petition. It is also possible to understand verse 9 as expressing certainty of victory in the future, in which case the worshipper anticipates deliverance. Verse 8 strengthens the petition in verses 6 and 7 and is really not a thanksgiving for help already received. Mowinckel places this psalm in a group which he calls protective psalms, quote unquote, because they express prayer to Yahweh for protection against imminent danger. Mowinckel argues that such psalms have more confidence and assurance of getting help than do the psalms of Lamentations. Krauss places Psalms 54 in the broad category of prayer songs under the Hebrew tefillah, but with petition and complaint predominating.
And I think before moving on to the rest of the commentary, I don't know how much you have, but
I have the title only.
Okay. I did want to say a note on the name theology and what that means. So the God shows up in a few different ways, and not just in a theophany. His presence is illustrated in many ways. His name is one of them. The angel of the Lord is one of them. Some have argued the kavod is one of them. So there are a few other ways, but this would become important. These are what you could say as like it has the term has a lot of baggage right now, but like at this point in time, but hypostasis would be the best way to put this. This would be essentially a way that God can present himself to the people, how they can interact with the deity. So the ways that I listed are one of them being the name particularly, and they would all these concepts would have their own afterlives basically, where they all developed in different ways. But we'll get to this a lot more once we get to the New Testament, but the name theology is very important. In fact, Charles Gieshin in his book Angelomorphic Christology talks about it quite a lot, about the development of name theology. So I recommend reading his the book, and so you can get more info on that. And like in the New Testament, it would come to like the phrase like "in my name" is very common in the Gospels, and that stems back to the name theology. And of course, we already know how important the name is, right? They couldn't even say it or write it a lot of the time. So
it had magic powers. That's how I got out of the Garden of Eden. I spoke the secret name of God, and it let me fly. Because fuck this.
The name theology is something that we should keep track of. There have been some hints of it up to this point, but yeah, "Save me, O God, by your name" is far more explicit.
So my only comment is on the title, which is 2. The reference is to 1 Samuel 23:15-19. Gerstenberger writes that the quotation of some words from 1 Samuel 23:19 reveals direct literary dependence on the Samuel text. Tate writes that the association of the psalm within the incident probably arose from a wordplay between verse 1, which is 3, quote, "and ruthless ones seek my life," end quote, and 1 Samuel 23:15, quote, "and David was afraid because Saul had come out to seek his life," end quote. Tanner writes that the superscription is added by a later addition, but can aid the modern interpreter to see in what situation the psalm might have been prayed. Krauss comments, quote, "In reference to the secondary connection of a number of psalms of David to the history of David, the question arises about the internal or external motive. What impelled the transmitters and editors to make the connection, for example, between Psalms 51 and 2 Samuel 12, and between Psalms 54 and 1 Samuel 23:19? This question will have to be asked over and over. In the 2 psalms referred to as examples, certain peculiar and noteworthy associations of words and expressions can be noted. In Psalms 51:4, the petitioner confesses in view of his guilt, "Lecha levadcha chatati." This singular confession of the psalm has its echo in David's admission in 2 Samuel 12:13, "Chatati liYehovah." In Psalms 54:3, the phrase "baksho nafshi" is prominent. In David's story, we read in 1 Samuel 23:15, "Levakesh et nafsho." We cannot lightly dismiss these suggestions and associations. They reveal a scribe's enthusiasm that tries to establish the historical settings of the Psalms and wants to anchor the individual songs in associations with events. That's it.
All right. So unless someone has something else to add, we can
Nope.
move on to Psalm 55.
Yes.
Okay.
All right. I suppose it is my turn.
Illyra the Free sent 50 RN Raw gift memberships, making it 260.
That is quite a few memberships.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Illyra. Did we ever find out where she got that other line from? Was that from somebody else, or did she write that? The one that I said I'd like to have on a T-shirt.
The commandment.
She
Yeah.
I don't
wrote
know.
that. She wrote
She
that.
wrote that.
But I-
Outstanding.
All right.
That sounds
So-
right.
Psalm 55. To the leader, with stringed instruments, a maskil of David. Give ear to my prayer, O God. Do not hide yourself from my supplication. Attend to me and answer me. I am troubled in my complaint. I am distraught by the noise of the enemy, because of the clamor of the wicked. For they bring trouble upon me, and in anger they bear a grudge against me. My heart is in anguish within me. The terrors of death have fallen upon me. Fear and trembling come upon me, and horror overwhelms me. And I say, oh, that I had wings like a dove, I would fly away and be at rest. Truly, I would flee far away. I would lodge in the wilderness, Selah. I would hurry to find a shelter for myself from the raging wind and tempest. Confuse, O Lord, confound their speech, for I see violence and strife in the city. Day and night they go around it on its walls, and iniquity and trouble are within it. Ruin is in its midst. Oppression and fraud do not depart from its marketplace. It is not enemies who taunt me. I could bear that. It is not adversaries who deal insolently with me. I could hide from them. But it is you, my equal, my companion, my familiar friend, with whom I kept pleasant company. We walked in the house of God with the throng. Let death come upon them. Let them go down alive to Sheol. For evil is in their homes and in their hearts. But I call upon God, and the Lord will save me. Evening and morning and at noon, I utter my complaint and moan, and he will hear my voice. He will redeem me unharmed from the battle that I wage, for many are arrayed against me. God, who is enthroned from of old, Selah, will hear and will humble them, because they do not change and do not fear God. My companion laid hands on a friend and violated a covenant with me. With speech smoother than butter, but with a heart set on war, with words that were softer than oil, but in fact were drawn swords. Cast your burden on the Lord. Cast your burden on the Lord, and he will sustain you. He will never permit the righteous to be moved. But you, O God, will cast them down into the lowest pit. The bloodthirsty and treacherous shall not live out half their days, but I will trust in you.
Okay, I just want to throw out that the wings of a dove are not going to lift a 180-pound man. Be realistic.
It's a metaphor, Aaron.
I think he knows that.
You know what it makes me think of? The coward dies many times before his death. The valiant taste of death but once. I'll follow Seneca, thank you. David is a little bitch.
All right, let's hop into this. Verse 3, the noise of the enemy or the clamor of the wicked. And we see this a lot. Again, the wicked are out for the psalmist. And then in verses 4 through 8, we see that the clamor of the wicked has the psalmist in fear of death and wishing to fly away. But the noise of the wicked is imagined as a tempest. So we read through verses 9 through 13, where the wicked are essentially terrorizing the city, but they're not outsiders. They are insiders. The wicked are not the people that would normally be the enemies. They're not like an opposing army. Rather, they're people who were once who once acted close to the psalmist, even going to the temple with him. Now, however, these people have turned on him in some way. And in verse 17, I found this kind of interesting. While the wicked go around the city day and night, the psalmist, that's in verse 10, the psalmist can call God at any time, morning, evening, or noon. So it's really interesting that noon is at the end there. But this reminds me of a later poetic structure that pops up in some texts, a lot of wisdom literature, especially. Oh, Kitty, come here. Especially in Ben Sira, where we see, I forget the right word for it, but there's like this x plus one poetic style, where like if you would say like, oh, he went around the city 3 times, even 4 times, like something like that. So x plus one, the style is very common in later literature. But I don't think like this verse is like the origin of that thing or even dates the text in any way. But this can be seen as like a precursor for that kind of stuff. In verse 19, God is enthroned from of old, and that would be like from the very beginning of creation. Job, well, that's one way to interpret it. I'll get to in a second. We can look at Job 24 for that. Taken with the other stuff we've learned, the enthronement from that time speaks to a chaos comp happening before the creation of people, which means the defeat of the primordial chaos was the first thing to happen. But the phrase from of old can mean like any ancient past, so not necessarily creation. So we can look at Isaiah 44, 7 through 8, or Psalm 119, 52. And this one
kind of
was
like back in the day.
Yeah, back in the day, right. But verse 20 was pretty interesting to me. My companion laid hands on a friend and violated a covenant with me. So Tate translates this as he stretched out his hand against those at peace with him. He profaned his covenant. This covenant violation, it can pretty simply be an oath between friends, but oaths still had a religious element because usually when you were taking any kind of oath, God was somehow invoked. So it kind of adds to the weight of breaking that. That's all I have for that.
Sounds like a horrible person that people had to. Ugh. Anyway.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so commentators note that the text of Psalms 55 is difficult, with Tate noting that the jagged, hectic character, quote-unquote, according to Eaton, of the Psalm's content means that it is not always easy to follow. Tanner writes that the prayer's most unique feature is its abrupt changes in thought that give an uneven, disjointed, and complex structure and place the hearer of the psalm within the emotional roller coaster that is suffering. She notes that instead of seeing the chaotic structure as a literary device, Gunkel and Krauss argued that the psalm is 2 psalms, verses 1 through 19 and verses 22-23. Gerstenberger writes that Psalms 55 grew out of the perennial struggle against threatening death experienced in the social context of primary groups. He writes that the diagnosis that must have preceded the recitation of the psalm obviously had determined enemy machinations to be the cause of the sufferer's affliction. Consequently, the complaint prayer takes a stand against the hostile crowd, including former friends, with heavy denunciations and imprecations. Tate notes the Hood and Gunkel's opinion that the psalm was composed by an Israelite resident in a pagan city. The betrayer who is denounced in verses 13 through 15 would be a fellow Jew with whom the worshipper had been made a trip or pilgrimage to Jerusalem. If this is the case, then the psalm could possibly share a common viewpoint with Psalms 42, and may belong to the exilic period. He writes, however, that the evidence is too scanty and unfocused to support any of these views. Following Krauss, he writes that the psalm is a prayer song of an individual who is undergoing intolerable strain because of evil and dangerous conditions, and especially because of the betrayal of a former friend. Krauss, quoting from W.O.E. Osterley, writes that the psalm and language suggest the post-exilic period. Hosfeld writes that the psalm relates to the pre-exilic prayers of lament and petition in the first Davidic Psalter, but at the same time it betrays connections with exilic prophecy and the experiences of the exile. He suggested that it accompanied the exiles on their journey. That's it.
Okay. So we move on then to 56.
Yes,
We do indeed.
maybe.
We've got time.
And this is where God gets to play the cry bully. Where he's being persecuted. God is being persecuted.
Oh, poor baby.
Nope, I misread that. Trust in God under persecution. God is not under persecution. But that would be too funny. Because, you know, it's like the other narcissistic complaint about how I'm so put upon. You know, it's so unfair the way everyone is treating me. The media, everything.
Yeah. Poor baby.
You ready, Lilith?
I'm 50. For some reason, never mind. Doesn't matter. 56. For the director of music, to the tune of A Dove on Distant Oaks, which I'm really curious about now. Of David, a miktam, when the Philistines had seized him in Gath. Be merciful to me, O God. For men hotly pursue me all day long. They press their attack. My slanderers pursue me all day long. Many are attacking me in their pride. When I am afraid, I will trust in you, in God, whose word I praise. In God I trust. I will not be afraid. What can mortal man do to me? All day long they twist my words. I will go on to tell you what mortal man can do to me. They are always plotting to harm me. They conspire. They lurk. They watch my steps, eager to take my life. On no account let them escape in your anger, O God. Bring down the nations. Record my lament. List my tears in your scrolls. Are they not in your record? Then my enemies will turn back when I call for help. But this I will know, that God is for me, is for me. In God, whose word I praise. In the Lord, whose word I praise. In God I trust. I will not be afraid. What can man do to me? I am under vows to you, O God. I will present my thank offerings to you, for you have delivered me from death and my feet from stumbling, that I may walk before God in the light of life. Oh, I would far rather be worshiping the little orange curled up fuzzball. Who's you cute little baby? Who's you cute little baby? Yeah. Is this you have saved me like you've actually saved me in the past and I'm hoping you'll hit me up again? Or is this like, I'm gonna say you've already saved me because that shows faith and hopefully you'll be shamed into actually helping me? I don't know. I've seen both. Although nothing more fucked up than the children's stories that tell kids that they have to claim healing, magical God healing, by insisting that they are already cured because this shows faith. No, I'm not making that up. Yes, it's real, and I can, on request, provide more than one record of a children's show that tells them that explicitly.
And Lyra the Free sent 20 RN Raw gift memberships for a total of 280.
Lyra's our hero.
Yep.
I mean, for commentary, I don't have too much to say on this one. But we see more of, I don't, unless I missed it. Yeah, I don't think this one uses like the word wicked or anything. But it's very clear that they're talking about the same group of people because they are described in the exact same way, especially in verses 5 through 7. They seek to injure my cause, Their thoughts are against me. They lurk. Lurking is a really common one. And they watch my steps as they hope to take my life. That kind of builds back to the whole to something that we find in a lot of the Psalms about, they set up a net for the psalmist, but then eventually they're the ones that are gonna fall into it. Yeah, aside from that, I don't really have much, but it is, even though it doesn't say it explicitly, for the description of the same group of people. Also, this cat is keeping me from doing much right now.
What do they call that condition?
Being a cat.
No, when
You can't get up when a cat sits on you because it breaks universal law.
Right. Yeah, what do they call that? There's like a condition for it when he can no longer move. Not catatonic. It's I forget what.
That is a pun that's worthy of you. Oh, I love cats. I love them so much. But yes, Alira is correct. We don't own cats. We feed them. And more appropriately, they own us. Oh, God. Look at him. He's just completely schlumped.
Yep.
That's adorable.
This happens a lot.
I am so jealous of you. I would give anything.
See, I wouldn't be, because this happens especially when I'm trying to get some work done.
Yeah, I feel you.
Don't care.
I'm surprised that I haven't been decorated today.
Yeah, she usually comes and cuddles you on screen. It's so adorable.
Yeah, and this is the first time I don't know where she is. Oh well. Tomer, you got anything?
Yes. So Gerstenberger writes that the psalm should not be classified as a thanksgiving song with an account of former trouble, quote unquote, according to Weiser, but we should consider the heavy emphasis on the view, with certainty of being heard in verses 4 and 5, 10 through 14, as a special feature of this complaint of the individual. He writes that we may thus accept it as an Old Testament liturgical piece that reflects the ancient experience of being comforted in despair, as we see in Jonah 2, Isaiah 38, 10 through 20, and Daniel 3:25. Tate writes that the psalm may be a prayer designed for an individual without ever having been either a national prayer or a royal lamentation. He writes that the scribal writer of the historical note in the superscription interpreted the psalm in the context of the career of David, and this may be an accurate reflection of the nature of the psalm, i.e. written with the situation in mind, which shared common elements with that of David in 1 Samuel 21, 10 through 15, and 36, i.e. David's kingship provided the model, the story context, for either the original design of the psalm or its interpretation, or both. Krauss writes that, because the enemies are described as warriors, one could think that the petitioner is a general or a king. However, this conception is refuted by verses 5 forward and 8. He notes that H. Gunkel thought of a pious person who is sojourning among heathen in the diaspora, based on a misapprehension of amim in verse 7. And Hosfeld and Zenger write, quote, an exact determination of the situation and dating of the psalm is impossible. We cannot conclude from the text that this is the prayer of someone accused, or certainly that it is a formula for judicial proceedings in the temple. The description of the pressure from enemies that causes the petitioner to endure the whole day or every day in fear and trembling speaks against such a restrictive interpretation. In the same way, verse 13 by no means demands a Cultic Sitz im Leben. Instead, the psalm belongs to the sphere of private piety and is a prayer of petition against fear in the face of oppression and persecution by real or supposed enemies, whom the petitioner experiences as a mortal threat in verse 14, and who fills his life with insecurity and pain in verse 9. In this situation, the psalm is an assurance to the petitioner that God is on his side, and therefore, in the long run, no evil can touch him.
Yeah. Love the sense of betrayal, too, tying that in with David. I wonder what that's like to feel betrayed by someone who you helped at their lowest. Never going to let that go.
And regarding the title on 1, to the tune of A Dove on Distant Oaks, the Masoretic text reads, Al Yonat Elem Rechokim. The word ele means to be speechless or silent, and thus the MT literally means according to a silent dove or dove of speechlessness of distant ones. Rashi, based on Talmud Sotah 10b, wrote that David said this about himself, for he was with Achish, far from the land of Israel, and Goliath's brothers were requesting permission from Achish to kill him, and he was among them as a mute dove. Likewise, Kimchi wrote that David called himself a silent dove, either because he was like a dove who flew away from her nest and couldn't speak his mind, or that he pretended to have no intelligence as a dove. Krauss writes that to suit the sense, it is probably better to read Elim, terebinths, following Bathken and Schmidt, and thus read a dove on far of terebinths. He writes that the title is very likely a familiar tune according to which the song is to be intoned. Tate notes that Bovinkel translated over the dove of the distant gods, taking Elim to refer to gods, and argued that the statement alludes to a purificatory rite in which a dove was dipped into water with the blood of a sacrifice and then released into the open field, as in Leviticus 14:1-5. The idea being that the sins of the person involved were sent off to the supernatural beings in the distant areas of the desert outside the world, quote-unquote. Eerdmans argues that the dove was a carrier pigeon belonging to the temple, released by a pious Israelite in a distant place to carry his tears, in verse 9, back to the temple in Jerusalem in a skin bottle. Compare Psalm 68:14 and 84:4. The psalm was one to be recited while the carrier pigeon was freed. Tate, however, writes that such conjectures are not very convincing, and the best guess is that the expression refers to some sort of tune or recitative pattern for use with the psalm. The reference to a dove in 55:7 may be interpreted to link Psalms 56 to Psalm 55 in some way, according to Kidner. Septuagint reads, "Over the people that are removed far away from their holy things," taking the dove to be the people of Israel, and likewise Targum reads, "Concerning the assembly of Israel that may be compared to a silent dove at the time when they are far from their cities, and they return and sing to the Lord of the world, like David the humble and blameless one." That's it.
All right, thank you. We moving on to 57, is it?
Well, I did want to actually answer a question in chat. I saw someone ask if my cat has had access to the communal brain cell yet. He did once when he figured out the source of the laser light. So
Very clever.
yeah, he got it. Good for him. But no, I do have to do quite a few things today, so I think I have to call it at this point.
Okay. And in case anyone's wondering, this is her name is Isaboa because she is a boa.
Oh, she's so
Incredible.
pretty.
All right. Well, thank you then. And like I said, we're not going to be able to meet up on Saturday because I have to go do silly things. So we will meet up this Wednesday and possibly next Wednesday.
We do need to make up time, so it would be best if we could try.
Yeah.
I should check.
Okay.
And
I think next Wednesday would be fine for me. And
yeah, Wednesday works.
Okay, so we'll be doing Psalm 57 Wednesday. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'll set up for that.
And
Awesome.
hey, make sure you join the Behold Network Discord. The best Discord.
Not
There is
loud
no other
enough.
Discord. That's the only one.
Not loud enough.
Yeah.
Behold!
Behold.
Definitely the Discord server with the best memes.
And Lyra the Free just sent 20 RN Raw gift memberships, bringing us to 300. No, wait, to 280. I'm reading these notes out of order.
And she received a goal because Dr. Kip got one.
Wow. That's incredible. The best thing I've ever seen. There's never been a better moment. And I was here for it. I'm here for all the best moments.
Baby.
I
Lawrence,
know
don't quit your
that
day job.
they can't do it because racists would just use it to be shitty. But God, I wish there was an actual IQ test for leadership at this point.
Yeah, you remember when
Or just a civics test?
remember when the president was a respected position? Remember when the United States was a respected country? Remember when we were a free country?
Yeah, I remember Obama.
Yeah.
We could have had Bernie. We could have had Bernie.
Should have had Bernie. All right.
Want to read out the last one, Arn?
Oh, wait, there's another one. Dr. Kip Davis says, "Woo!"
All right.
Hey, come here.
Oh, look
Yes.
at the
Get on
mighty
with it.
snack has taken the chair.
With what?
Oh,
Aren't you gonna sing us out?
No.
Oh yeah, we haven't heard from. Like...
Well, in that case, I will do it. I will sing us out.
Oh no.
No, I'm not. Not like that.
Make it stop.
someone call
Thank
it.
you.
Bye.
Goodbye. See you.